When I was younger, I often found myself in situations where I thought to myself, I should not be here. I should not have gone through that door into that house or apartment. I should not have gotten in this car with these people. I should not have gone down this road. When I was 20 years old and at school in East Texas, I often made the roughly 3 hour drive from my home in Nacogdoches to my parents' new home in Alexandria, Louisiana, where my father had taken the job as an administrative pastor of the 120 churches in his denomination in Louisiana. A couple of times on a rural road near Manny, Louisiana, I passed a large hand-painted sign that said, "Secrets to the Universe Revealed, Baby Boy or Baby Girl." Obviously intrigued, but never enough to turn down the dirt road to investigate. That is, until the time I was headed to see my very religious parents with my new girlfriend. Now, when I describe my parents as very religious, it does not begin to describe their quirky, apocalyptic beliefs. It was as if they were in some sort of death cult that looked forward to the second coming of Christ, where believers like them would be taken up into heaven, and believers of any other faith would be cast down into hell along with all the sinners to burn for all eternity. Then, all the world would be destroyed by fire, clearly the acts of a loving God. Now, they had an extensive list of sins that included prohibitions against movie theaters, dancing, swimming in the same swimming pool with the opposite gender. Pretty much anything fun was worldly, and anything worldly was a sin. As we drove past, I called my girlfriend's attention to the sign, and she wanted to know more and suggested we follow the arrow on the sign down the road. I wanted to go along with just about anything my new love interest wanted, so I turned around and headed down the dirt road in the direction of the arrow. The road led us to a ramshackle house surrounded by a few dilapidated outbuildings. A weather-beaten old man made his way out the front door and called out, "What can I do you for?" Through the rolled-down car window, I said we were interested in the meaning of the sign on the county road. He waved us over to the front porch and invited us to sit a spell while he explained how the sign came about. It seems that he was plowing the field one day when an angel of the Lord appeared in the sky and told him that he should take some of the plowed dirt at his feet, and that would be the main ingredient, the germ is what he called it, and a potion that young couples could drink, and with that and an astrological reading and $50, he could guarantee their choice of a baby boy or baby girl, and it was a money-back guaranteed offer. I nervously explained that we were not married, and in any event, not ready to have children. He said that he understood, but that we should keep him in mind if our circumstances changed. That would have been a good time to make our goodbyes and leave, but we did not. The man then explained that he'd been in contact with the U.S. government because the U.S. Army was going to need his potion so that there would be plenty of male soldiers to fight in the coming war between the forces of good and evil. By now, I was having a clear understanding of just how off-kilter this fellow was, so I wanted to keep the conversation bland and non-confrontational so that we could make our escape from this situation that might soon go off the rails. Because of the way I was raised, I had a very good nutcase radar. There were a couple of other indications that maybe turning down the road was not the most prudent decision. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a little old lady shuffling along on her walker inside the house. The old man commented, "You see my wife there in the house. I had a vision where the angel told me that soon she is going to die a violent death." Alarms went off in my mind, and I was becoming more anxious to come up with a safe exit strategy. But still, we were frozen to our seats. Then we heard the unmistakable roar of a chainsaw start up, and I noticed a young man across the way staring at us and holding the chainsaw with no apparent task in mind. The old man said, "That there's my son. He's a good boy. He don't drink and he don't mess with women." The alarms in my head are screeching, "Exit the premises immediately! Exit the premises immediately!" I needed to get in the car and get us out of there quickly, so I stood up and said, "It was great to meet you, sir, but we have to go because we're expected at my parents' house soon." Then he says, "Well, let's kneel down for a word of prayer before you go." I'm thinking, I don't want us to be in a vulnerable position on our knees and certainly not with our eyes closed. In the back of my mind was a childhood fear born out of my father's frequent sermons on following the will of God. His favorite example was about Abraham taking his son Isaac up Mount Moriah with the intention of sacrificing him on an altar, that is, killing Isaac with a knife. Sacrifices of animals was very popular with the Canaanites of that period. Old Abraham wanted to go one better in his devotion to God. In the story in the Bible, an angel of the Lord stays Abraham's hand just as he's about to sacrifice, that is, kill Isaac. The angel came prepared with a lamb for the sacrifice. Imagine the future family dinners in the Abraham household. Hey, Dad, remember that field trip up Mount Moriah? I never believed that story happened, but my father did. I was sure that if my father got it in his head that it was the will of God, I would have been killed in my sleep to prove a point. I had seen this sort of religious nuttiness up close my whole life. I made some excuse, like we have our own religion and need to go, but my girlfriend thought it best that we appear to be on the same page as this character. So she indicated that it was very kind of him to pray with us, and of course, we were glad to kneel and pray. She had never heard of the Abraham and Isaac story. So that's what we did. As I knelt, I kept one eye closed and the other on the chainsaw boy. I looked over at my girlfriend, who also had one eye open. At the amen to the prayer, we got up, shook hands, and said something like, "Please keep us in your prayers," while thinking, "By the way, please don't let your boy chop us up with the chainsaw." We hopped in the car and drove away as fast as we could without raising suspicion. The rest of the trip was fairly uneventful except for the discussion about whether we were ever in any real danger. Frankly, this encounter had the great benefit of making my parents seem almost normal to both me and my new girlfriend. A couple of days later, on the way back home, we passed the same sign, which now read, "Tomatoes, $10 a bushel."